What's going on, everyone, and welcome on into today's video. We are talking CVD and how we can use the CVD indicator, the cumulative volume delta, CVD, how we can use that on a Bookmap to predict or help us predict, put us on the plus side of probabilities to predict and potentially trade a given stock. Okay, and in this case, we have NVIDIA. It's actually a stock that I was watching today, and I was watching the CVD, and I thought this was actually a really good example to show in today's video. So that's what we're going to do. Now, on the screen, we've got the candlestick chart behind us. Okay, so let's zoom into today's price action. So big move down, push further down, lows here around midday, and then consolidate flat to the close. Up here, which I'll make larger in a second, we have Bookmap, okay? So now if I were to pull up Bookmap and I was to enlarge this, okay, so that we can fit it nicely on our screen, give it a second to reset and recalibrate. What I want to do is I want to go back and forth and show you how we could have used the CVD indicator on Bookmap, which is at the bottom of our screen, okay? So it's actually this guy right here, which is kind of like a real-time CVD. The market's now closed. Now, as this day is occurring or as it's playing out, you'll be able to track the real-time CVD, and then you'll be able to track the history as the day has progressed. And so this could be useful as we might be able to see divergences here. But in today's case, it's actually a pretty straightforward example, and we can talk about a divergence in another video. But in this video, or in this example, we really saw the CVD help us predict that we were going to go lower on NVIDIA. And so what I'm looking at right now is on Bookmap. If I were to pull up the studies, I have the cumulative volume delta selected, and I have not changed the settings. These are settings that have been with me since day one of opening up Bookmap. Now, inside of this, we can enlarge this or we can get rid of it, right? I want to make it a bit larger so we can see it a bit better. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to actually bring this up a tiny bit if I can. There we go. Let's see if I can bring it a little more. Yeah, there we go. So to my left, you are now looking at the CVD for NVIDIA for today. Now I'm going to go across and get rid of the close because there's this big volume at the close that I don't need to care about, right? Because that's at the end of the day. We had this big move down on NVIDIA this morning. Now, these volume dots essentially are showing you the aggressive movements that we're seeing, buyers versus sellers, intraday. And the CVD is tracking those aggressive buyers and sellers. And so when we have larger aggressive sellers, that's going to be a negative on the CVD in real time. Then, as we have aggressive buyers come in, we're going to add, or they're going to add to the CVD. So if that number is negative and trending down, what that's telling us, and when it's red, essentially, it's red, so to make it more visually appealing, what that's telling us is that we have more aggressive sellers in control. And so what we're looking at, what I personally like to look for is big moves followed by consolidations. Now, we didn't get an amazing move after the consolidation. A lot of the move, to be honest, came early in the day on NVIDIA. Here's back to the candlesticks, which I'm sure most of us are familiar with looking at. I don't want this to confuse you too much. Bookmap does not have to be very confusing. But what we have is a big move down, okay, followed by now a period of consolidation. Now, inside this consolidation, if we were to potentially take a trade, how could we put ourselves on the plus side of probabilities here? What we could do is we could look at the CVD to see if we can get an insight into what's going on. Now, there's more to it. We can talk about heat maps and all that stuff later. But if I were to pull that CVD up, here's that consolidation that I'm talking about. So from what this is around 9:10 a.m. all the way until around, looks like 9:30 a.m. That's a central time. Okay, so from 9:10, which is around the bottom of the consolidation, to 9:30, which was like right here, we were in this consolidation. Let me actually zoom in a little bit more. We're in this consolidation. Now, this actually goes to about 10 a.m. But in that period that I was looking at, 10 a.m., we actually broke down. This is what I want to focus in on, this right here. And if we were to look at the CVD, despite NVIDIA consolidating, it's literally flat. It's balancing, it's popping around, it's flat, right? The stock is not moving. Okay, and I'll go back to the chart in a second. Stock's not moving for this 20, 30-minute period. Okay, but what are we seeing inside that period? Larger red volume dots and a CVD that continues to trend down. That's telling you that there are still more aggressive sellers that are trying to push price lower, where we have just more aggressive sellers than buyers net right now in the market. And so could that have given us a signal that we were going to go lower? Well, it certainly seemed like that worked in this case. Not always going to work. There's no guarantees. There's no perfect indicator. But that was a piece that we could have looked at and said, hey, big move down, consolidation, sort of like a bear flag type of look. And then we end up going lower. Not only does NVIDIA go lower by 10:05 a.m., so it's in this consolidation around 470. Let's call it 470. It's like the middle of the consolidation. We end up going down to 466.50. Pretty nice move. And then we actually went down to sub 466, 465.80 or so was low of the day a couple hours later. So just like that, that could have provided a nice $4 trade to the downside on NVIDIA, which is a pretty sizable move. Now, NVIDIA can move a lot more, but that's a nice piece of the puzzle. Now, of course, not as big as the open. And in some situations, there'll be some days where we get much larger continuation moves. And this was more of a choppy, slower move, but we were able to use the CVD, the cumulative volume delta, and the volume dots here to essentially say, hey, we've got more aggressive sellers than buyers. We're in consolidation, but sellers are still remaining strong. That leads me to believe we've got a higher chance to break down below some of these higher levels of liquidity on the heat map, which we can talk about in a future video. That leads me to believe we can break down through supports, break to new lows of the day, and continue pushing lower. In this case, not a crazy move, but a nice $4.5 move on NVIDIA that you could have taken advantage of. That right there, my friends, is how I have been able to use, or how I have been using and interpreting the CVD indicator while looking at Bookmap, while looking at my own trading on individual stocks. And even when it comes to futures, I've been actually focusing on more individual stocks lately. I just been finding that it's been working a lot better with my personal strategy. But if you want to check it out, you want to try out Bookmap, there'll be a link in the video description box down below if you want to check it out. There's also a free version, and there's a paid version as well if you wanted to dive deeper into some of the really cool indicators. And really what it is at the end of the day, it's allowing you to see beyond this, beyond these candlesticks. Now, we can interpret things and say, oh, we got momentum, this, that, trends, all that stuff, great. But we can see deeper than the candlesticks, which could be helpful. Doesn't have to be, could be helpful in your own trading style, whatever it may be. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like on the video. Consider subscribing here to the channel if this video helped you guys out. Consider sharing it with a friend, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.